I think the database, I'm up to a little over 27,000 decks and that includes 3,200 betrayers.
Hello and welcome to the Forgeborn Finishing School. Casey, Kid, and Core here. We'll be analyzing Forgeborn battles to help take your game to the next level. Hey everyone, welcome back for another week of the Forgeborn Finishing School. We have a lot of exciting events to announce this episode, and we're very excited to have Cade, aka ThePuffinMan, and the Discord community on here today. Cade, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Excited to talk to you guys.
Awesome. And we are excited to hear some of the announcements you have. But before we get into that, just really quickly want to go over a couple of other upcoming events here for the community. It does look like one of the Forge Guardians, Michael Vanby, is running an event on the 21st of January. So very quickly coming up here. And that is going to be in person at Grimsby, Ontario. There's a convention called the NBW convention going on. And this is going to be really the first of those storyline events that the Forge Guardians are capable of running that really gives the player the ability to affect the storyline. This one's Utera specific. It's the Tuscari kind of first getting their limelight in the storyline event, which is very exciting. I'm a big fan of the War Tusk. Well, at least one variant of the War Tusk. I've played a lot and have enjoyed that. So excited to see what comes out of that. Also very excited to take part in some of these events. I think some of them are going to come up online potentially, and then some of them are going to be in person. So
yeah, what I think's really neat about the Tuscari Divide one here is that you're going to be required to play a Utera faction deck as one of your parents. You don't have to use the Forgeborn, but you have to have a Utera deck. So kind of plays into the story aspect of it. So I like that change.
I do. That's very nice, giving you some upfront agency to decide what you're going to bring to the event, and it makes sense, right? So really curious to see what our prime faction pairing is going to come out. I think we will all just kind of assume that the Necrim Utera flavor is going to come to light, but I've always been a big fan of Umbrock with Tempest or Asperian with Aloyan, so we'll see what comes out on top there. And then looking a little closer to home, at least for me, in Minnesota, is going to be the Con of the North being put on by the Forge Guardian Church, and that is going to be 16 to 18 February in Plymouth, Minnesota. It is the largest board gaming convention in Minnesota. I'll tell you, I've been before. It's a blast. It's one of those really low-key conventions where you can just sidle up to a table and typically play a board game with a group of people that's either there to demo it for you or a group of people that have just found a place within the convention hall or hotel to play a game. It's very friendly, very open, and absolutely recommend it. It's a lot of fun. I, unfortunately, Greg, will not be there. I've been called out of state for work, which is really kind of a dagger to the heart, but there's a chance you might make it up from Kansas.
There's a chance I'll make it up. Still kind of undecided, but if I do, it'll probably be last minute, drive up, crash with family. And go to it. So it's really cool, what the Con of the North and Church is putting on here, and that I think all the events are free. So between the sealed and constructed events, those are all free. They've already got people signed up for Learn to Play sets. There's a lot of Learn to Play options for people as well.
Yep, and it'll be my first time, and Church definitely hooked me with the free sealed. Super excited
Nice.
to play some free sealed and hang out with everybody who makes it.
Well,
That's
I
awesome.
may have to just come up so we could, play again. So our last match was pretty epic. So
Yes, it was.
Nice. And now I can't make any promises, but I do want to share an experience that I had from Con of the North last time. Rewind a year ago, I went to Con of the North, and they had again, free sealed event, and they were giving out early access to Battle for White Fang Pass just prior to its retail release, but after its pre-release event that was Fuse Fest. So obviously, I'm not saying they're going to give you it last winter, but I'm saying they always put on a great event. There's always good prizes, and there's always good people. So if there's any chance you can make it out to Plymouth, Minnesota, it's well worth your time. All right, so really let's get into the meat of this episode. And Cade, you've kind of had a project you've been working on for a little bit of time. You've reached out to me and kind of kept me in the loop along the way, and it's just something that we've been getting very excited about here on the show, and just waiting for the right time to talk about it. And today's that day, right?
Yeah. So I really started getting into Solforge around Gen Con in 2023. I when I get into a game, I get really into it. So I was like, what are these decks? I want to see all the Forge creatures. I want to see all the modifiers. And so that kind of interest really sparked me wanting to put together like a big deck list database from everybody's collection I could get my hands on. So that's kind of what this project has been. So I am planning on running some casual events where, anybody who participates has access to all of the decks that are in this database, which is pretty exciting. There's some really crazy stuff and some really cool stuff, and um, yeah. So I've honestly I play a decent amount online with my brother, just casually having fun. And as a newer player, it has really helped being able to see, yeah, what's out there, try out different decks, test out different pairings. It has helped me with like the GVG sales, figuring out, okay, which decks do I want to pair with my decks, and I've gotten to practice and like test those out. And so I think the database, I'm up to a little over 27,000 decks and that includes 3,200 betrayers and like 1,500 soul binds. And so the amount of it's just a massive
Oh.
amount of stuff. And I haven't even come close to looking through at each deck, but I've probably looked through personally about 8 to 10,000 of them, and yeah, figuring all that out. So yeah, it's really been a blast. And then I also wanted this to kind of, it can be daunting to just come into this database and just be like, all right, there's 27,000 decks. What do I do? Especially if you're unfamiliar with a lot of the, forge modifiers, creatures, keywords, all that. So I've put in the database some like, entry level like archetypes and different examples of decks that people have played and enjoyed. So I've kind of split them up by tiers where I've like the top tier, and some examples of like um, the Stitcher combo and Rumble Heart decks, and the Army Commander Krogius decks. Just to give people an idea of what kind of the highest level looks like. And then, tier two, we have, Greg's favorite, the Dark Forge Drain stuff, and really focus on the life gain synergies, some Furious Shard back shenanigans, things like that. And then I had the most fun putting together the unique and fun decks, just some examples in there. So there's in the database, there's the Betrayer Madlawinter with the Biologist. And so playing a double Madlawinter deck is, there's an example of that in there. There's a bunch of Betrayer Omnis that you can play around with. I just found last night a Lightning Ritual deck with a Betrayer Forgeplate Yeti, and then there's a Betrayer Lightning Ritual deck in Aloyan with a Forgeplate Yeti. So you have two Forgeplate Yetis and two Lightning Rituals in the deck. So yeah, just some really fun stuff like that. So I'm hoping, yeah, to kind of start running these events toward the end of the month and do a whole circuit and have a bunch of fun rule sets, and yeah, just really put it out there for people to experiment with.
No, that's awesome. I mean, one of the decks that I haven't been, able to get to is the Syntheta's Mad Lab combo deck. And so kind of playing into this tournament, I can finally get my hands and like play one of these and look at some different options and decks and build something out of it. So that's really interesting and entertaining to be able to do. So yeah, thanks for putting all of these decks together to allow us to more easily just, yeah, have a fun event. I think it'll be awesome.
Yeah. And
I
I
think
did want to
what's
thank, like, go ahead. Sorry, Ryan.
no. Please finish.
Uh, I was just saying, yeah, thank you to everybody who like, sent me their username or sent me their collection to add to this, because I really think the more decks we get in here, the better it'll be. And yeah, the more excited it'll make new players, especially to just be able to see all of them.
Yeah, and that's a great segue into what I was going to say, is that I love that you did the work up front too to kind of make some extremely competitive pairings and some suggestions and recommendations, so that this isn't just not only is this a tool to kind of help either experienced players or new players gain access to a whole bunch of new decks, try some things they haven't tried before, but it's also kind of a learning tool of, hey, this is what we think competitive is right now. And everyone in the community knows if it's a pairing that you've deemed competitive that you're playing right now, then it's definitely a top tier setup. So I think that to me is probably the coolest part, and that's not to overshadow any of this, but that's amazing that you did that work. That you said, "Hey, this is what I think," and really, I think by doing that, it's really like one of the tenets of the things we believe in is let's raise the competitive floor of every player out there, and it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what access to decks you are. Like if we can all get better as a community, that's the goal, and so that's really awesome.
And it also kind of removes one of the, what some people attribute to being a negative to the game, in that everybody has, in these tournaments, right? Everybody's gonna have access to the same pool. They're gonna have to be able to make they have to make the different choices based on what they want to play. But it's not an issue of like, well, I just didn't pull a deck that good, or so that's really interesting because it removes that aspect from the game, and I think that just makes a better environment in these tournaments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do remember one of my first online events. Sam Nathis crushed me with some sort of Furious Shardback deck, which I'd never seen a Furious Shardback before, and I was like, "Wow, this thing is crazy powerful." I wish I had access to one, or I have to figure out a way to try out a Furious Shardback deck. And yeah, to what you guys were saying, this lets people play with really powerful cards and really fun cards, and um, yeah, I think especially if we want to get more players into the more competitive scene and build their most competitive decks that they have, then getting the practice in with kind of the highest level stuff and understanding what the highest level stuff is a huge leap in that direction.
And just to say, we've all been crushed by Sam Matheson, so like that's nothing new. We've all been there, so it's always a good memory. And then one other thing that I want to like, my first thought process when you told me about getting this many decks together and then starting to open events with different modifiers to force the community into trying new things. A small thought went in my head, and let's game plan this out. Is what is the bottom line for Stoneblade? How does this affect the game, the commerce, the access, the ability? And I just want to throw out that I think this is one of those things that on the initial appearance, which was my initial reaction, was is going to enable players to not necessarily have to purchase as many decks. And I think that could be true, but I also think this is, and you kind of mentioned it earlier, is a learn to find what you like to play and then find what you like to play physically. And it's probably also never going to take away to some people the rush of opening decks, collecting, and things like that. So I think from a Stoneblade bottom line perspective that this can only be good, draw interest for the game, and I'm excited to see that. We have an inrush of new players that are coming with the Kickstarter. We've seen it start, and I hope that this is a tool that really helps grab some of them and kind of keep them in the game.
To that point, I initially, had a similar thought, but then thinking of my own personal experience, I was like, just seeing all the crazy decks that were out there and all the cool synergies, I was like, I spent a lot more money after starting this project on sealed product to try to open some of these cool things and, get some the decks for trade and all that than from before when I wasn't as knowledgeable about the decks and the stuff that was out there.
Yeah, it's always nice to have a tool to kind of learn and gauge before you jump into the deep end. And you mentioned it before when you get into a game, there's the personalities that just jump in. I'm the same way when I get into a game. I go straight off the high dive and I get in as deep as I can. And this game is no different. As soon as I played a couple matches, you couldn't stop me from playing the game. Keep learning, keep moving. And just keep trying to find the depths of the game. And I think this is just a great tool to help facilitate that the love of the game and make it just kind of draw that much more people.
Yep. So when do you expect the first event to kick off? You got that planned out yet, or?
So I'm still trying to finalize the exact date. I think for the first event, we'll probably do um, more of a free-form event and not have as many modifiers or fun, uh, restrictions, just to let people play with some of the powerful decks that they might not have gotten to play before. So I imagine I'll probably send out the initial version of the database on the Stoneblade Discord server and the BitCycle server and on all that this weekend.
Okay.
And there's still a couple of archetypes I have to find a couple of examples for, but I'll send that out this weekend. Give people probably a week and a half to like start looking through it, start compiling some lists that they enjoy, and then run the first event the following weekend is currently the plan. So that would be probably Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the 26th, 27th, or 28th, like somewhere in there is when I'm planning on trying to run the first event.
Awesome. Well, that'll be pretty exciting. So we'll try to keep people posted as well on that. So that'll be fun.
In this database, do you envision it kind of being similar to how the collection manager is run? That as updates come out, it's an accessible, updated version in some way, shape, or form.
So that is the plan, which um, I pulled most of the decks from the collections um, probably last week. And so, obviously a few players have already opened a bunch more decks, and particularly Sam and Ankh Ben have done some opening streams and opened some more stuff with some cool betrayers. So part of me has been like, oh, I have to go update everything again. But I think realistically, I'll probably try to like update it and keep it a living database, but probably update it like once a month and not have the database change all that much because I just don't have that much time.
Yeah.
But definitely, I'll try to
Yeah.
keep it updated, and as people open more things, they can let me know that they opened a bunch of product, and I can update their decks in there and that sort of thing.
Nice. One other thought I had is you kind of mentioned some of the more fun archetypes or restrictions. I don't need an exhaustive list. But you just give a couple of ideas of what is a restriction you would throw out there that would be enticing. Because we've seen a lot of what the fifth cycle has done on their every other weekend, have fun matchups. Just kind of curious where your thought process went on some of these.
Yeah, which I've really enjoyed those fifth cycle events too, and I'm still trying to come up with some of the more fun things. So if anybody has any ideas, feel free to shoot me a message on Discord. But I think doing one of the first few events, I'll probably come up with a list of uh, cards that are similarly powered, and then have everybody sign up, and then give them one of the random cards that I've come up with in the list, and then their job is to build around that card and ideally find a betrayer of that card. So run 2 copies of it and kind of try to maximize that card in their deck. So things like that. I think doing a tribal, like run your favorite tribe, where you have to have at least 7 or 8, which most people don't have a decks like that in their personal collection. But in this list, there are decks with, I think there's a Utera deck with like 8 dinosaurs or something ridiculous in one half. So with the deck database of this size, you can find crazy lists like that. So running 7+ of your favorite creature type, 7+ of your favorite keyword, things like that. I also think um, it would be a bummer to not run an all Ironbeard event. I mean, you got to do something like that at some point.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
yes. A double off-color betrayer to see if you can kind of maximize the betrayer in the color that it's not, the 2 colors that it's not from natively. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So things like that are what I envision as part of the circuit. And again, all these are. I did have someone reach out and say, are these bronze events, or like are my decks that I put into this list going to get renown? And let me reassure that no, these are all casual. We're not even going to put the deck list on the website. Yeah, strictly casual, strictly for fun, and really for exploration of the game and the archetypes as a whole. So yeah, that's what I'm planning on doing.
That's awesome. Those sound like a lot of fun.
Yep.
I'm gonna go find this 8 dinosaur Utera deck now. You've challenged me. I went to a lot of great lengths to find my 10 dino pairing deck, and so finding the tribal you love is a lot of fun. But having access to the deck that you want to have access to play with is another thing. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and I will say on the archetypes, specifically the tribal archetypes, I have a lot of the tribal archetypes like as examples in there, and most of the example deck lists are some of the best, if not the best lists I could find. So, um, realistically, if you, as you're playing them, like these are meant to be like, okay, this is what like a peak dinosaur deck looks like, not like your average dinosaur deck. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and just kind of to give you an idea of okay, what are dinosaurs capable of, not what the average dinosaur deck looks like.
I'm looking forward to the Spirit one after Set 3 releases.
Yeah, yeah. I do I think have a spirit example in there, but yeah, it's seeing all the set 3 spirits. I'm like, wow, this is gonna get so much juice from set 3.
So that's probably gonna maybe help flesh out. There was a big debate a long time ago on the Charge Plated podcast about what was the strongest tribal set one. Maybe this could help define that if if we see what a peak mage looks like against a peak dinosaur, so on and so forth. Very curious to see how that all shapes out. Before we kind of wrap this up, Cade or Greg, you have any parting comments, thoughts you want to share?
Cade, you want to go first? You got anything?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to, yeah, thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it. Love chatting with you guys, and yeah, I appreciate the help and the outreach, and because I really think the more people we can get eyes on the Discord, start looking at decks, start playing more, like the more the community is going to grow, and I hope this kind of database will be a helpful tool as Set 3 comes out, as the app really comes out to really grow the community as much as possible, because that's sort of the goal with this.
Awesome. Well, I first want to say thanks for putting this together and the effort and time. I know it takes a lot, especially if you're going to be updating this and running events. So we appreciate helping grow the community and allowing access to that. And then also want to as of recording this today, the Shufflebrush crew, Shufflebrush Neil and Shufflebrush Jesse have due to things going on in their lives, have decided to kind of step down putting out content at this time. I just want to say thanks to both of them for their contributions. They've really helped to grow the community and did a lot of contributions with tournaments and helping drive some of the discussions in the game as well. And so I just want to say again, thanks to those guys for everything that they've done as well. And hopefully we'll get to continue to interact with them in the future, just within a gaming social aspect. But
yeah, absolutely, well said. They've been amazing arbiters of the game in every sense of the word, and they've been honestly, since we got to know them a little bit, good friends of ours and good friends of the community of Solforge. So very sad to see him go. Understand, it takes a lot of effort, and just really appreciative of what they've done. So with that, I do want to take a last minute, just to say, if you would like to drop in the comments below any thoughts you have to assist Cade with building his, archetypes list of any kind of cool, crazy, fun ideas you have, or also just put in the description below how awesome his cat is back there. I love to see bombardments on the video. Normally it's one of our kids that come in. So for eagle-eyed participants, normally they get to see one of our kids jump into a corner of the channel somewhere, shape, or form. But yeah, so that's it. Hey, thanks for coming on, Cade. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks again, guys.
bye.
Thanks for attending this lesson of the Forgeborn Finishing School. If you like this video, please subscribe, comment, or consider donating to our Patreon account. We look forward to our next lesson.